Electric vehicles are slowly but surely taking over our roads. Four wheels and capacity for 4 or 5 people is what we're used to. But is it time to change that paradigm and make way for smaller and greener vehicles? And can micromobility become a trend rather than a niche fad? I'm Tomasz Koper, and this is Connected on TaiwanPlus. Giving us a peek under the hood of the micromobility industry and one possible future of personal transportation, we welcome Ryan Yang in Taipei, a board member and investor of Lean Mobility, a Japanese manufacturer of urban micro EVs, founded and manufacturing here in Taiwan. And joining us from Cyberjaya, Malaysia, is James Anthony Tan, the co-founder and chief visionary officer of TEASK, or TEASK, a provider of clean energy microgrid solutions for micromobility, homes, and communities. Now, Ryan, I want to start with you here. Can you tell us how the micromobility industry differs from what we traditionally think of when we think of cars and automobiles?
Yeah. Myself is also a car enthusiast. When I look at this company is, I know the company for about 4 or 5 years, and they have this project been running almost 10 years ago. And what I see is in a city, majority of the trips are very short. So based on a McKinsey study, about 50% of the trips are less than 5 kilometers. And about 60% of the trips are under 8 kilometers. So short trips are, it takes a big shares of the city communities. So micromobility is really become more important, and then we can get back more spaces within the urban area.
Well,
that's what I look at this.
From your perspective as an investor, what changed in recent years that made micromobility a viable investment in 2026 compared to earlier when it was maybe an interesting idea and a few interesting prototypes?
Yes. So I've been investing in deep tech technologies. So, I mean, this problem has been there for quite some time, but we need a solution. So, I mean, in Europe, we have seen so many micro EVs or cars on the street. In Japan, we have those K cars. They are small cars which take a smaller space. This has been around for a long time. As an investor, I'm looking at new technology that can make big changes to the current situation. So what I see for Lean Mobility is they have technology that can make the car much narrower than the current situation, the current cars. So like those small cars right now on the market is about 1.4, 1.3 meters wide, and D3 is less than 1 meter. So I think this is a big difference. So I look at the company with the good entry point to the market because it makes the car much narrower, but still carry 2 people. So this is a competitive edge to get into the market and make a big change to the market.
Well, James, TEASK is working on providing energy access to micromobility solutions and light vehicles. Now, Taiwan, Malaysia, other countries in Southeast Asia as well have very strong scooter cultures. A lot of people drive two-wheelers. So do you see this new trend of micromobility and light vehicles being adopted here in the region? And what kind of timeline are we looking at here?
The short and simple answer is yes, because we're currently entering a renaissance of different technologies. There's so much new things coming on, not just from a vehicle perspective, not just from an energy perspective, but from the storage itself. So one of the greatest hurdles in the past 10 years was not actually the energy perspective. Energy is abundant. We could always do burst energy in many different ways, but the issue was chemistry. So I'm not going to say too much about that, but the chemistry of the vehicles itself. But in the last 4 years, with the drop of lithium batteries, the pricing perspective, and then the birth of new materials that are able to be manufactured at an abundant scale effective perspective, now having great quality batteries that are able to harvest the energy we are giving and give it to the clients at the best optimal price is entering into a new phase. So I would say maybe But we have to look at it from a political and also from a market entry perspective. But from a value proposition, I would say about 5 to 7 years for it to be nicely matured.
Well, Ryan, in that perspective, does lean mobility aim to replace cars or provide an alternative and coexist with the current crop of vehicles that we see on our roads?
Yes. So I look at this point, lean mobility or lean 3, these compact cars, they are now replacing cars. So this is a complement to the current transportation methods, means. So we can go to a place by walking, take a bike, motorcycle, cars, trucks, buses, mass transportations, all different kinds. So I think this is to resolve a certain transportation type. Let's say I've talked about there are so many big shares of the trips in urban areas. These are very short trips. So if you use a big car as an SUV, going to a place like 4 kilometers away, it doesn't really make sense, and it takes a lot of space. And another time is we'll talk about the vehicle utilization. So in downtown, I think most of us, you drive your car, the big car, to the company, to your office, and you park the car in the office. And then at the end of work, you drive back. So 95, 96% of the time, the car is parked, it takes up places. So it takes up places at home and also places at the office. So this is something about utilization. I think it can make the city, the urban areas much more clean and more efficient. And then, it can make the living quality better too.
Yeah, so I would actually totally concur with Ryan's observations, because from our data that we have collected over the last year, we can concur. Micromobility will help in many aspects, because from our understanding of user behavior, it's always short trips. We don't actually go that far every single day. We actually have a pattern in terms of our movement. And from there, you can actually... And another thing, because we're always having such big cars, roads were actually designed for flow rates. So having bigger cars bigger road, bigger this, bigger that, doesn't actually fixes your traffic issue. It's the flow of cars. But with smaller vehicles, better parking positioning, we can actually save time from a grander scale. But then that's a topic for another day. That's other planning perspective. Really.
We will actually dig into some of that later in the program. But first, let's kind of look at this vision that lean mobility, has for Taiwan. Because as lean mobility prepares to launch its product in Japan and Taiwan, the company's founder, Akihiro Yanaka, previously the chief engineer at Toyota, tells us about his vision and hopes for the Taiwanese market.
やっぱり私は都市のね、交通の課題を解決してサスティナブルな、モビリティ社会に貢献するというのが、やりたいことなんです。そうした時に、自動車のようなあるいはリーン3のような、自由に動くモビリティと公共交通をうまく連携させて使っていくだとか、そういう時には駐車場のレイアウトだとか都市の中の機能のレイアウト、こういったものから都市の設計、モビリティシステムの設計ということから、改めて考えていこうと。もうこういった取り組みが、ヨーロッパなどを含めて、先行してますけれど、全体として進んでいくと思います。その時にやっぱり自由に、ドアツードアで動ける、コンパクトで環境にいい乗り物としてのマイクロモビリティっていう重要性がこれからどんどん増していくと思います。ですので、5年後10年後さらにその先になるかもしれませんけれども、都市内でですね、小型モビリティがどの国に行っても、便利に、そして環境負荷小さく、使われているという姿が、私が実現したいこと。それはリーンモビリティだけでやるということではなくて、いろんな方、それは企業もそうだし、ユーザーさんもそうだし、行政や政府とも同じビジョンでね、進めていくということが、私がやりたいと思っていることなんです。で、その、最初のモデルケースというか、一番最初それを実現していくところとしてのこの台湾というマーケットに非常に期待をしているということです。
James, you previously said that it was inevitable in a few short years that we will adopt a micromobility or light mobility solution of some kind, but how feasible is it to actually do that in that short timeline, given the fact that urban planners won't really redesign our cities unless these kind of cars start appearing on the roads, while many adopters might be hesitant to start using them before the infrastructure is in place? So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation there. How do you see that problem?
Economics. Simple, straightforward, because we must always ask the simple question, what is it for the clients? The key here is value proposition to the client. And that value proposition is efficiency. So in the past 20 years or 30 years, our systems have always been designed for effective output. But now with this transition, we can play a new game, is efficiency, hyper efficiency in terms of velocity of money. And that is possible with this energy transition. And energy transition will only succeed if we have enough off-takers. And that off-taker, one of that major market is the mobility market. And micromobility in ASEAN, APAC region per se, right, is nearly 53% of total users. That's about a market potential of 370 million people just in ASEAN. So it's a huge potential. Market forces will always win. So exciting times.
Ryan, what kind of technological challenges did you have to overcome, both in software and hardware, when designing the Lean 3? When I first saw the images of it, just photos, my first thought was, how does this thing corner? How does it stay stable in corners? So what did Lean Mobility have to do to overcome these challenges?
What the Lean 3 has is we call active lean technology. So the car actually can lean by itself. So the car inside is like a car. So it's using a steering wheel and then gas pedal, brakes. It's just same as driving a car. So in Taiwan, the regulation is actually the car owner has to get a car driver license. But actually the Lean 3 itself will wear a motorcycle license plate. So actually the cost of ownership is so much lower because it's a light EV. We have a speed limit of 80 kilometers, but the driving behavior is more like a car. So you get a car driver license. So when let's say you drive in the car 60 kilometers down the road, it make a turn like really big. For a traditional cars, actually it just take the input from the driver and then just do whatever you give him. But Lean 3 is more like a robot. So it collects all the data from in the past, and then it knows by the speed you have and the input you give to the car, it may not make the turn. Actually, it will slow down and then make the, and adjust the car to the turn. So it's so much safer for people. I've been talking with Yanaka-san sometimes when you travel to Taiwan for manufacturing negotiations or communications. I remember one time I took him to the airport and we talked about this. So in Taiwan, there's a big population riding motorcycles. This car can save their lives.
You mentioned a lot of very interesting things there, and we will discuss a few of them at length in the second part of our show today. But first, let's check in with our viewers. If you would like to join the conversation and stay connected to tech and business stories from Taiwan, follow us on social media. Next, we look at regulatory and economic challenges facing micromobility as it steers towards wider adoption. Stick around. When automobiles first appeared on the roads, they had to share them with horses, pushcarts, bicycles, streetcars, and pedestrians. In the United States, now the world capital of car culture, it took automakers decades of lobbying to kill off much of the country's public transportation and make roads the exclusive domain of cars. So how feasible is it to do a transformation like that all over again for small and green electric vehicles? And are the economic incentives in place to make it happen? Well, helping us understand the markets and regulators' readiness for micromobility, we welcome back from Taipei Ryan Yang, an investor and board member of Lean Mobility, a company based in Japan and Taiwan. And joining us from Cyberjaya, Malaysia, is James Anthony Tan, the co-founder of TEASK. Now, James, I'd like to start by challenging a common assumption that a lot of people have, that going electric is unequivocally great for the environment. There are many scooter riders here in the region, in Taiwan and beyond, and many of those scooters are quite economical. They burn maybe 2 liters of gasoline per 100 kilometers. Would it make ecological sense for someone with a relatively modern scooter to switch to an electric vehicle, like the Lean 3, for example, or would it be better to wait until the end of the life cycle of the current vehicle before switching to an electric one, given the ecological cost of producing any vehicle these days?
Okay, so interesting question, but it's very region specific because in different places in ASEAN, there are different incentives. Like here in Malaysia, we have a subsidy to swap in your ICE bike for an EV one it's about 2,300 ringgit, which is about 700 American dollars, if I'm not mistaken. In Indonesia, you have a swapping process. So in terms of the pricing perspective, it is now financially economical to actually play electric mobility. And another thing that was fixed in the last year, actually, so this is really new, is actually battery degradation. So if you look at a Tesla, how much is a Tesla battery? How much is Micromobility's battery? And we needed to find a way to get that premium quality battery in that compact size at that correct price range. And that was figured out last year. So right now, your value for money is spread out not just in 2 to 3 years, but now to 7 to 8 years.
Well, East and Southeast Asia are certainly interesting countries to launch initiatives like this. So let's hear from Akihiro Yamaka, the founder of Lean Mobility, who tells us why the company considers Taiwan to be a good market to launch its new product.
まず台湾に着目したのは、まずそのマーケット市場の特性からなんです。で、私の理解はですね、比較的都市に住む人が、人口が比率が高くてですね、でさらに、自動車ももちろん販売、されてますけれども、それ以上に、バイクスクーターが、販売されている、町として非常になんて言うんでしょうね、この取り組みをリードするのに、していただくのにいい市場だなというふうに思いました。なので、特にこのバイクがより快適安全になってほしいと。一方で車ほどではなくていいんですというようなお客様がしっかりいらっしゃるなというのがですね、台湾に着目したポイントなんです。ですから、もちろん製造の面もそうなんですけれども、まずは最初の着目した市場に近いところで生産をしていくというのが私たちの考えです。そういった製造面でもですね、協力していただける方がいらっしゃって、でしかもスクーター、バイクを中心とした小型の乗り物を生産するという能力はですね、台湾は比較的高いなというふうに感じていますので、そういったつながり、ポテンシャルという意味でも台湾での製造というのは非常に可能性が高いというふうに感じました。
Now, Ryan, at first glance, the Lean 3 sits somewhere between a car, a full-sized car, and a scooter, something more personal and for 1 or 2 people. Do you know how it will be treated in terms of regulation, traffic regulation and parking regulation here in Taiwan, since cars and scooters are treated very, very differently when it comes to those 2 aspects?
Yes, actually in Taiwan, the regulation the Ministry of Transportation just announced the draft of the regulations right before the New Year, so just a couple of weeks ago. So I think actually I really want to give credits to the government. What they want to do is they know the micromobility has been a long-term trend globally, and in Taiwan because people are so used to cars and motorcycles. And this is a new category, new format of cars. So people are not very used to it. And then there's a doubt. Let's say the car is the size of a motorcycle. Actually, the width is probably narrower than a Harley Davidson. And the car is probably about half of the length of a car. So it's almost a motorcycle dimension. but the driving behavior is more like a car. So, it gives the government actually a lot of headache how to deal with this. But they understand, actually from their press release, you can tell that they understand the need for the country to connect to the world on the regulations. So this is the first step. The Taiwanese government, make micromobility a category that can be legally drive on the road. So I think this is the part. So I think for government, they have to take lead, be bold, and then decide where the country want to go. The other thing is we want to make the daily drivers know who there's another option. So even you can afford a car, but it's hard for you to find a parking space. So that's why a lot of people use motorcycles instead. So when these people, they think about micromobility, they are thinking about ways how to use that. So we have already taken a lot of pre-orders. These people who they have never seen the car, but they decide to buy a Lean 3 and put their money in and place an order. And then some people, they are still confused. They will use their motorcycle thinking or car thinking about the car. So I think it's about education. For people who are in need for this, they have a choice. So and I welcome more micromobilities coming to the market to make the market stronger.
Well, as more micromobility solutions appear on markets here and in Europe, there will be a greater need for energy access, which is what TEASK does. So, James, I wanted to ask you about the regulatory and economic challenges that you face in the regions that you focus on.
So what we do is movable power stations. So inside movable power stations, you have, especially for the T3+ models, we have solar and batteries, and these two are considered a fire hazard. So we have to go through lots of regulatory limits from that initial fear. Then after that, we have amperage that are allowed. So maximum is about 100 at location site. So that's the maximum allocation that was given towards EV infrastructure at this specific perspective. So that is why we are very heavy onto localized energy production so that we could bypass a lot of these regulatory confinements. But thankfully, like Taiwan, the Malaysian government has been extraordinarily supportive. We were actually supported by the Ministry of Tourism, MOTAC. So we actually weaponized Desire commercial hub locations to actually strategically place energy nodes or charging infrastructure to gather people to these locations. So that's how we actually survive on this.
Well, once again, location. And
location.
And on that note, Ryan, Taiwan is a global leader in tech and precision manufacturing. So for lean mobility, being able to be here, does that translate into efficiencies? Something that could give lean mobility an edge compared to the kind of scale of EV manufacturing that we see in China, for example?
What we look at this is Taiwan has a very strong ecosystem for building cars. So for Lean 3, most of the parts are designed here, mold here, and then we'll assemble the car, the complete car here. So actually the Lean 3 right now to Japan and Taiwan actually is all assembled in Taiwan, and the complete car will export to Japan. So that is a very rare case that Japan has imported the complete car. So what I look at this is Japan has a good design R&D. Taiwan has strong, probably can call it clusters for the ecosystem for manufacturing cars and motorcycles. And Taiwan is very strong in manufacturing motorcycles and cars. So I think we combine this technology and efficiency together. Taiwan actually, it's a good and bad. Taiwan is very good at making every dollar counts. So I think we can make the car more affordable to users. And actually we can bring the technology from Japan to Taiwan. And consider China. China is very strong in EVs. And I think Lean 3 is a little bit different. If you want to do a four-wheel EV, it's hard to compete with China. Their mass production is so efficient, and then the price is so competitive. So I don't think that's something we want to do. So I think Lean 3's competitive edge is the lean technology. So You probably don't know, Toyota has a project called iRoad, and we have iRoads, tens of cars been running in Grenoble, France in 2014. So it's almost 12 years ago. It's been running there for 3 years. So we collect a lot of real world driving data from the car, and then it becomes a strong algorithm we can put into the new Lean 3 to make the car more stable, more safe, and to everyday drivers. So that's the competitive edge.